Hello everybody, I hope you're well. Today we're going to visit Chartwell, the former home of Winston and Clementine Churchill. We were a little bit early, so we popped into Westerham, which is only a few miles from Chartwell. As usual, I'm always amazed by the history we have on our high streets in the UK. After a quick coffee, I spotted a Sue Ryder charity shop, so of course I had to pop in. I thought this blue Wedgwood small vase was rather sweet and would be perfect for a single bloom of a rose or a peony, and it was only £6, so I thought, yes, that is coming home with me. This Wedgwood trio in sage green was rather lovely, and I actually regret not buying it now. I think it would make an absolutely lovely gift for somebody. So I paid for my vase and then had a quick look at some of the pictures and some of the glassware. Here you can see some Dutch klompiers, a cup featuring our late Queen just for £1, and some French style soup bowls. There were some lovely old side streets and other historic buildings, but we hurried back to the car so we could get to Chartwell for when it opened at 10 o'clock. At the entrance is a second-hand bookstore called Jock's Bookstore. Jock was the cat of the Churchill family. There's also a shop where you can buy plants for the garden. The bees are certainly enjoying this one. We're actually having a heat wave in the UK at the moment with temperatures over 30, which is fairly unusual for this part of the world. I was pleased to see the plants were getting a good watering. And this lupin caught my eye, called the Chatelaine. I think I might have to buy that one for my house in France. And I also like this Spitfire garden ornament. I'm a National Trust member, so it's free to get in for me. It is really worth getting a card if you're going to spend a lot of time in the UK. You can bring your dog here, but I don't think today was a day for dogs. They're probably better off at home. The walk up to the house is beautifully shady with lots of woodland plants like these lovely foxgloves. This is the oval swimming pool that the Churchills had purposely built in the 1930s. Apparently it is also heated with boilers underneath. However, these days it's a wildlife pool, definitely not for human swimmers. The water features here are fed by natural spring waters. This cascade was originally displayed as a show garden at the 1948 Chelsea Flower Show, and Clementine Churchill liked it so much that the designer Gavin Jones gave it to her as a gift. We have yellow iris at the chateau, so we could add a little bit more colour in, couldn't we? I was actually talking to my husband at this point, but he'd already walked ahead. I mean, that happens a lot. Fancy a dip in the swimming pool, Edwin?
You have to. Let's do it.
So avoid the black swans. I think you have a real sense of history walking through here, around these gardens. This doorway leads you to Lady Churchill's rose garden, which sadly for me did not record properly on my phone, but I can show you this Marlborough Pavilion. Named so because Sir Winston Churchill was of course descended from the Dukes of Marlborough. I love the warm peachy walls, and from here you get your first glimpse of this wonderful property. I can imagine Winston and Clementine sitting here enjoying a cup of tea or a gin and tonic. Very pretty relaxing place to sit. I don't know what these roses are, which ones they are, but they are so fragrant. They are delicious and I want them. I am completely in love with this rose. I'm not just saying that, it is actually one of the best scented roses that I've tried. So I do need to get the name of this one. That view is amazing.
Just look at that photo.
Okay, on my way. Oh yes. Former Prime Minister of France, 1939. Nobody knew what laid ahead. Having a nice day, Edwin?
Loving it.
It's not too hot, is it?
Not yet.
No. Looks like a rose to me. Winston Churchill bought the property in 1921. However, Chartwell was a costly house to run and had almost been sold several times during the Churchills' time there. Fortunately, Chartwell was bought for the National Trust on the condition that Winston and Clementine could continue to live there for as long as they wished. These are the views that sold the property to Winston Churchill. This is the Weald of Kent. Chartwell was originally a medieval manor, and as one of the stewards pointed out to me, could have well been visited by Henry VIII, because a certain young lady by the name of Anne Boleyn lived only 4 miles away. And I think that is where the art studio is, Winston's art studio, so that opens a bit later. We'll definitely be going to have a look. That is a beautiful croquet lawn. Oh my goodness, I love this combination of a white rose and this low-level planting. That is just lovely. There's that amazing view again. More roses. I'm not sure if you can hear the bees, but it's just so full of bees, this rose. They're loving it. I'm now in the Golden Rose Avenue that was a gift to Winston and Clementine from their children and grandchildren on the occasion of their 50th wedding anniversary in 1958. Gosh, I love all these roses. So this is the golden rose part of the garden. And I have a soft spot for an orange rose because I had them in my bouquet when I got married. I actually think this is one of the nicest gardens I've been to, so I hope you're not too bored because there's a lot of garden shots in this video, but it's just so beautiful. Everywhere you look, it's stunning. We're just admiring the chicken run here. We're going to have chickens in France, but I'm going to use the same omelette house that I had, that I had in my previous garden. But this is pretty good. Let's go and find the source of that noise. Hello. It's nice and shady for you in there, isn't it? During this heat wave. I really have missed having hens in the garden. I can't wait to get them again. You're very beautiful, aren't you? So there's some peonies up there. I need to go and have a look at. Ooh. So the house opens at 11 and we got here at 10, so we have an hour to go around the garden, and it really is so stunning. But it's getting so warm that you really wouldn't, well, I wouldn't want to be out here much later than this time of the morning. I'm sure I read that Winston Churchill loved butterflies and had a butterfly garden, so he really was a pioneer of wildlife gardening. Here is the dovecot underplanted with beautiful nepeta or catmint. This sweet little play cottage was actually built by Winston Churchill for his daughter Mary. He enjoyed bricklaying and built all the walls of his little cottage himself. His daughter Mary spent many happy hours playing here as a child, and she even entertained some of Churchill's guests such as Albert Einstein and Charlie Chaplin. It's lovely to see children playing here today, and I know my children would have enjoyed it too. This wall behind me was also built by Winston Churchill, and even though it's had to be stabilised, I think he's done a very good job. So it's almost time to go in the house, but these peonies are just so beautiful. That colour is stunning. Oh my goodness. I know they don't last very long, and actually mostly I prefer roses, but I think you have to have some peonies in the garden if you possibly can. Okay, so this is the orchard, and they've got some beehives in there. It's lovely. Right, I think we're going to try and get into the house now before we both melt. Within the house is a museum dedicated to the life of Winston Churchill. You're supposed to do this at the end, but by mistake we went in and did it at the start. Anyway, no matter. The museum is a fascinating insight into the life of who is arguably our greatest statesman. He was an enthusiastic and I think accomplished painter, as you'll see later when we visit his studio in the grounds. I love this quote, and with a little bit of arm twisting, my husband agreed that it was his biggest achievement too. That's his dispatch box. Rufus is a great name for a dog. So we made it round to the front entrance of the house. This is where the visitors go in. There's a pretty lawn with a wall and more roses round at the front. Just imagining all the very important people who've pulled up here in the front of this house. This is the sweet little invite you receive when you book a ticket to tour the house. This first room was Lady Churchill's sitting room, filled with Winston's paintings and family memorabilia. Here you can step out onto the terrace, which is open when the weather is good. So the steward just told us that this was the view from this terrace that sold the house to Winston. And he didn't really care what it looked like inside or how much it would cost. This was the view, and who can blame him? The family must have spent many hours out here admiring the view. Chartwell opened to the public in the summer of 1966. Clementine always took a keen interest in the property after she left, and continued to be sent flowers up to her London home from the garden here. I love this pretty wallpaper and gilt mirror. This is the main entrance hallway, and that guest book would be an absolutely fascinating read. From here, you walk across the hall and into the family sitting room, which I think looks remarkably modern. The colours make it look inviting, and over in the corner is a card table where Winston used to play his beloved bezique. Most sitting rooms or drawing rooms don't actually have a Monet in them like this one does. Here you can see the 1902 picture by Monet of Charing Cross Bridge. And from here you have wonderful views out to the garden that the Churchill family loves so much. I love this picture here, painted by Churchill, of St. Jean Cap Ferrat. And this lovely portrait of Clementine. I read a biography on her years ago, and I must dig it out for a reread. Across the hallway is the library with this fantastic relief map of Mulberry Harbour at Arromanches on the Normandy coast.
By now, are you American? No, I'm Dutch. Dutch? That's all right. I can be doing that.
It's worth mentioning here that the stewards were extremely knowledgeable and helpful, and they were great to talk to as we made our way around the house. D-Day, of course, was a great success for Winston Churchill, and I realise I'm actually editing this on the anniversary of D-Day. This is the Secretary's office, which once would have been a hive of activity, and it's from this room that Churchill dedicated staff would have fielded calls from key political figures. I spotted a photograph of Winston and Clementine in Westerham, where we were this morning. That is an amazing view to wake up to every day. It feels quite personal being in somebody's bedroom, but the steward told us that Lady Clementine and her daughter Mary set it all up so that the public could enjoy the rooms as they would have been seen. In the anteroom next door, this once would have been Lady Churchill's bathroom and dressing room, and now has been converted to display an international collection of porcelain and memorabilia. I love this Sèvres porcelain dinner service. Here we can see Charles de Gaulle awarding Churchill in 1958 the Order of Liberation, Liberation. And I hope I didn't offend any French speakers with my pronunciation there. In the uniform room, Churchill's iconic uniforms are displayed, including his famous boiler suit. I have a soft spot for the RAF uniform because my grandfather was a Spitfire pilot in the RAF during World War II.
Like a suit like that?
Yeah. It's like a modern onesie, isn't it?
The steward told us that these cuddly toys had been given to Winston Churchill during the Blitz by children who had lost their homes. He was very touched and he put them on his shelf. Apparently their placement also helped him remember where his books went back once he'd taken one off the shelf. This is Churchill's study, which is in the old part of the house, which was a Tudor farmhouse. Apart from during the Second World War, he used it constantly for 40 years. You really get the feeling of history here and that he's just popped out for a cup of tea or something. The desk was actually used by secretaries mostly because Churchill preferred to work standing up. You can just see his upright desk here on the right. I like these Tudor doorways leading down to the staircase. You can briefly glimpse behind me the Duke of Marlborough portrait, which has been recently restored. Having raised 4 children, all I can imagine is children sliding down his banister. I'm sure the Churchill family had so much fun living here. It's quite a nice staircase, Edwin, isn't it? Outside you can see people having lunch and picnics on the grass, and we will soon be joining them. But first we're going to visit the dining room and the kitchen. This dining room is where the Churchills entertain close friends and family. Winston Churchill preferred a round table for better conversation, and he preferred chairs with arms. The fabric on the chairs is an arum lily design, which complement the vivid green curtains surrounding the room. Again, the room feels quite modern to me and quite homely. I love this record player. And finally into the kitchen, which is usually my favourite room on a house tour. I love this copper and blue porcelain. This is exactly the look I'm going for in my chateau kitchen. I really had to resist the temptation to take these porcelain platters off the shelf and turn them over to see where they're from. I don't think I would have been very popular with the staff if I'd done that. Georgina Londmary was the cook for the Churchills, and I know that some of her letters came up for auction on the Antiques Roadshow, but that's all I know. If those letters ever get made into a book, it would be a fascinating read. So we had our sandwiches and then headed up to the cafe for a cup of tea. This smaller garden cafe was recommended by one of the stewards as somewhere with a great view, and they were not wrong. I admired the view while Edwin went to go and get the tea. An extremely hot Dutchman. Thank you, sir. Wait, is that Winston?
That's me getting the order right.
It's good to know in a heat wave we can still manage to drink cups of hot tea. Our final stop today was at Winston Churchill's art studio, found near one of the lakes at the bottom of the garden. The studio was built as a space for Churchill to paint without interruption, but it was also a blessing for his wife Clementine, as it stopped Churchill dropping paint on the carpets in the house. Winston Churchill only started painting later in life at the age of 41. It was his sister-in-law, Goonie, who first encouraged him to try painting, and it soon became an engrossing occupation for him. He painted many landscapes in Europe, Africa, and North America. I find it very poignant that his paintbrushes, his paints, his chair is all still laid out, as if he's going to walk back in at any moment and resume painting. On his easel here, you can see his unfinished painting of the pond with the fish. In his lifetime, he produced over 550 known canvases or paintings. But this one here with the goldfish in the pond at Chartwell will remain forever unfinished. I've loved this visit to Chartwell, and I found myself thinking about Chartwell for quite a few days after our visit. It was clearly a much-loved and cherished family home. Oh, are you sure? Thank you. So, I hope you enjoyed our little visit to Chartwell. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you soon.